As you settle into a comfortable position, imagine the world around you gradually softening. The air becomes still, the lights grow dim, and the noise of the present moment fades into a gentle hush. In this quiet space, a doorway opens. Not a doorway made of stone or wood, but one shaped by memory, myth, and the soft breath of ancient stories. Through it, we step slowly and peacefully into a world that existed long before recorded time, a world where gods wandered among mortals, where heroes were shaped by destiny, and where the faint glow of distant fires flickered across endless seas. Tonight, the story that unfolds is the story of Troy, one of the oldest and most enduring legends ever whispered across the ages. But we will not rush into battles or clash of swords. Instead, we begin with stillness, with the kind of quiet that settles over a vast landscape at dusk. Picture the ancient Mediterranean under a twilight sky, a horizon washed in soft gold and deep blue, the warm breeze carrying the scent of olive trees, and the rhythmic pulse of waves touching distant shores. This world is unhurried, timeless, and patient. It invites you to slow your breathing, to let your thoughts drift like gentle currents, and to walk with me into the cradle of mythology. Far across those waters lies a land where stories were born long before ink touched parchment, a place where shepherds tended their flocks under starlit skies, where kings ruled from homes of sun-baked stone, and where poets, many centuries later, would listen to the echoes of battles no living soul had seen. Imagine the soft glow of amphora lamps lighting narrow pathways between ancient homes, their flickering light tracing shadows that dance like forgotten spirits of a distant age. The world feels both real and dreamlike, grounded in earth but drifting in memory, inviting you to sink deeper into its embrace. As the night deepens, the boundaries between past and present grow thin. You may hear the quiet murmur of a lyre somewhere in the distance, a melody barely audible but soothing nonetheless. It carries the essence of Greece, a land where the line between myth and history often dissolves into gentle twilight. The stories passed through generations are not simply tales. They are reflections of human longing, love, pride, hope, and tragedy. In this stillness, we begin to approach those ancient emotions with reverence, letting them surround us without urgency. The story of Troy is not just a tale of a single city. It is a story of people who loved deeply, fought fiercely, and lived with a constant awareness that the gods watched over them, sometimes guiding their steps, other times weaving fate in ways beyond understanding. But even the gods, in all their power, seemed moved by human emotion. They, too, experienced jealousy, desire, and ambition. Their presence shaped the lives of mortals, creating a world where the extraordinary could bloom from the simplest moment. As we begin our journey into this legend, breathe slowly and let your mind wander through the landscapes of this ancient world. Feel the cool night air brushing gently against your skin. Hear the distant pulse of waves against rocky cliffs. Picture the stars overhead, clear and bright, scattered across the sky like tiny windows into eternity. This is a world in which the seeds of the Trojan War were first planted, not with swords, but with quiet choices, fragile promises, and divine rivalries that shimmer beneath the calm surface of existence. You do not need to remember every detail. Just let the atmosphere surround you, calm and steady. With each breath, we sink a little deeper into the beginnings of the story, where a single decision made by the gods will slowly set the course for heroes, lovers, kings, and entire generations. But for now, there is no hurry. Only the soft unfolding of myth, the slow drifting of time, and a peaceful invitation to listen as the ancient world awakens gently around you.
As the night deepens around the ancient world, the story drifts ever so softly toward a moment that seemed small at first, almost insignificant, yet would ripple outward until it shaped kingdoms and guided the paths of heroes. Long before the ships of Greece gathered on the shores of Troy, long before Helen's name echoed through poems and memory, there was a celebration held among the gods, a celebration that was meant to be joyous, harmonious, and blessed. But within that celebration, a quiet seed of discord waited, unnoticed, like a tiny spark hidden in dry grass. Imagine the slopes of Mount Pelion under a serene sky, the warm glow of the sun fading gently into evening. A soft breeze moves through the tall grasses, stirring the leaves of ancient trees that have watched over centuries. In the heart of this peaceful place, a grand gathering begins to take form. The gods of Olympus, radiant and ethereal, descend for a rare occasion, the wedding of Peleus, a mortal hero, and Thetis, the shimmering sea goddess whose presence seems to flow like moonlit water. It is an unusual union, a blend of earth and ocean, mortality and divinity, and it is celebrated with all the brilliance that the heavens can offer. Picture the scene slowly, long tables adorned with pure white linen, baskets of ripe fruit glowing like jewels, and goblets filled with nectar that glimmers with a soft, almost dreamlike light. The quiet music of divine instruments drifts through the air, gentle enough not to disturb the calmness of the night. Laughter mingles with the soft rustle of leaves, and a sense of harmony settles over the celebration. The gods appear not as distant beings but as graceful figures moving through starlit air, their presence comforting rather than overwhelming. Yet even in this peaceful moment, one presence is missing. One goddess stands apart, not invited, her name spoken in cautious whispers, Eris, the goddess of discord. She is not welcomed to joyous occasions, for wherever she walks, tension grows like vines in shadow. And though she is absent in body, her awareness of the celebration flickers in the air like a faint, unsettling breeze. For a moment, the wedding continues without disturbance. Thetis glows with the gentle radiance of the sea, her silver eyes reflecting the soft shimmer of starlight. Peleus, humbled and honored by this divine union, moves quietly among the guests, offering gratitude with a bowed head and calm smile. Yet all the while, the boundaries of peace grow thinner, as though a quiet, invisible ripple moves through the night. Then, without warning, Eris appears. Not with thunder or flame, not with storms or anger, but with a smooth, effortless step into the gathering, as though her very presence were a shadow cast where there had been none before. She carries something in her hand, something deceptively simple, a single golden apple. It gleams softly, catching the firelight, turning the warm glow into a cold shimmer. Upon its surface, words are etched with a delicate hand, "To the fairest." She does not speak. She does not shout. She simply tosses the apple into the heart of the celebration, letting it roll across the table where the most powerful goddesses sit. The silence that follows is deep, still, and heavy. The soft music fades into nothing. The laughter ceases. The golden apple rests gently among the fruits and flowers, a quiet object that holds within it the tension of heaven itself. Three goddesses rise, almost without thinking: Hera, regal and steady, the queen of the gods; Athena, the wise and resolute weaver of strategy; and Aphrodite, glowing with the soft, warm beauty of love itself. Each looks upon the apple with calm but determined eyes. There is no shouting, no sudden anger. This confrontation begins with quietness, a stillness that carries the weight of pride. Hera, in her calm, commanding tone, believes the apple is hers by right. Athena, with clear and unwavering reason, sees herself as the natural choice. Aphrodite, serene and luminous, knows her beauty is unmatched. None of them are loud. None of them are frantic. Yet beneath the surface of their still voices, the first strands of fate begin weaving themselves into an intricate tapestry that will stretch across decades. Zeus, who watches the unfolding scene with the patience of a being accustomed to divine conflict, chooses not to decide the matter himself. Instead, he turns to a mortal, a shepherd prince whose quiet life has kept him far from the tensions of Olympus. A man raised in gentle solitude, unaware that the whims of the gods will soon shape his destiny. This man is Paris, a prince of Troy who grew up believing he was nothing more than a simple guardian of flocks. The calm of the wedding returns slowly, but the harmony is no longer whole. The golden apple, so small and unassuming, has set something in motion that cannot be undone. The gods themselves drift back into soft conversation, yet their eyes linger on the apple with a quiet awareness that the world has just shifted. As the night deepens over Mount Pelion, the celebration continues with careful smiles, soft music, and gentle conversation. But beneath it all, the future whispers. The decision Paris will make, the promises the goddesses will offer him, and the path he will choose, all of it glimmers faintly in the darkness, waiting to guide the world toward the distant shores of Troy. In the quiet hills of Mount Ida, where the morning mist drifts lazily between the tall pines and the sound of distant streams echoes softly across the valleys, a young man lived a life that seemed untouched by the noise of destiny. His name was Paris, though many who saw him tending his flocks simply knew him as a gentle shepherd. He moved through the landscape with a calm, unassuming presence, guiding his sheep with a soft voice and a patient heart. He did not know that he was born a prince of Troy, nor did he understand that a long-hidden prophecy clung to his name like a shadow that followed him from the moment he took his first breath. Each day, Paris walked the hills with a sense of peace, watching the sunlight ripple across the grass and the wind play with the long strands of wildflowers. The world around him felt small in the most comforting way, as though he existed in a private corner of nature, protected from the burdens of kings and the watchful eyes of the gods. The shepherd's crook in his hand was simple, worn smooth from years of use, and his life was filled with the quiet rhythm of ordinary days. He was known for his fairness, for his kind judgments during small disputes among shepherds, and for the thoughtful expression that seemed always present in his eyes. It was this reputation, gentle, even-minded, and calm, that caught the attention of Olympus. Far above the mortal world, the three goddesses still pondered the golden apple left by Eris. Athena, and Aphrodite were powerful and dignified, yet the question of who among them was the fairest lingered like a soft, stubborn breeze. None wished to surrender the title. None wished to appear lesser in beauty or glory. And so they descended from the heavens, not to a palace or a throne, but to the quiet slopes of Mount Ida where Paris tended his sheep under a pale afternoon sun. Imagine the moment slowly. Paris rests against a smooth rock, the woolly shapes of his flock scattered across the nearby meadow. A gentle warmth settles over the earth. The air is still. Then, a shimmering light touches the ground before him, subtle at first, like the flicker of sunlight on water. From that shimmer, three figures emerge in forms too radiant for ordinary eyes, yet softened by divine intention. Hera stands tall, her presence steady and regal. Athena's gaze is sharp, thoughtful, calm. Aphrodite glows softly, her beauty quiet and warm, like the first blush of sunrise reflected upon the sea. Paris rises slowly, uncertain but respectful. His heart beats softly, not with fear, but with the quiet awe of someone faced with something beyond the familiar world he knows. The goddesses approach him not with thunder or command, but with serene grace. They offer him the apple, explaining with gentle voices that the choice must be his. He alone must decide who among them deserves to be called the fairest. He hesitates, of course. How could a shepherd, a simple mortal, make such a decision? Yet the goddesses do not pressure him. Instead, they each step forward, offering words that are soft yet meaningful, promises that glide through the air like silk drifting on a breeze. Hera, with the calm authority of a queen, promises him power, not loud or overwhelming, but steady, lasting, dignified. She speaks of kingdoms that would fall under his rule, of influence stretching across the lands, of a legacy that would endure beyond his lifetime. Athena steps next, her voice smooth, clear, and wise. She offers him victory and wisdom, the strength of strategy, the clarity of thought, a life guided by reason and honor. She speaks not of chaos or war, but of the quiet triumphs of the mind. Then Aphrodite approaches, her presence warm like a gentle flame. She speaks not of power or glory, but of love, a love unlike any other, bound by beauty so radiant it could alter the course of nations. She promises him the heart of the most beautiful woman in the world, softly suggesting that such beauty brings not only affection but a sense of completeness that many seek and few ever find. Paris listens, standing in the stillness of the hillside. The sheep graze quietly. The wind pauses, as though the earth itself waits for his answer. And in that moment, his heart makes a choice that feels simple, almost tender, yet carries within it the weight of tragedy and destiny intertwined. He offers the golden apple to Aphrodite. The decision is made without anger or dispute. Hera and Athena, though disappointed, maintain their composure and withdraw with quiet dignity. Aphrodite's eyes shimmer with a soft, appreciative glow, and she steps closer to Paris with the gentle assurance that she will keep her promise. In exchange for the apple, She will guide him toward the woman whose beauty surpasses all others. This moment, calm and peaceful on the outside, marks a turning point in the history of myth. No thunderclouds form, no earthquakes split the ground, no flames ignite the sky. Instead, the world remains serene, as though unaware that from this small exchange, a shepherd, 3 goddesses and a single golden apple, the path to the Trojan War has just begun. Quietly, silently, destiny shifts into motion. Paris returns to his flock once the goddesses depart, but the world around him no longer feels quite the same. The hills seem filled with possibilities, the horizon wider than before, and the future whispering with promises that drift through his mind long after twilight settles over Mount Ida. Far from the quiet hills where Paris tended his sheep, another world existed, one shaped by polished marble, warm hearthlight, and the gentle rhythm of palace life. In Sparta, where the land stretched out in fertile plains and the mountains rose like protective guardians around the city, Helen lived a life that felt both serene and destined. Her beauty was famous even before she grew into adulthood, whispered first by nymphs and later by kings, described as something not merely physical but radiant, like a soft glow that seemed to surround her wherever she went. She had been born from myth itself, the daughter of Leda, and in some stories, the daughter of Zeus, who visited Leda in the shape of a swan. Her early years were quiet, filled with soft lessons in music, weaving, and the customs of court life. Those who saw her often paused without meaning to, drawn in by something they could not explain, as though Helen carried a touch of the divine woven gently into her presence. Yet Helen herself never asked for such attention. She moved through her life with a calm, almost hesitant grace, aware of her beauty but not defined by it. As she grew older, her charm became something that stirred the hearts of princes and heroes across Greece. Kings sent envoys across seas and mountains. Warriors of great renown traveled long distances just for a glimpse of her. Soon, her father Tyndareus faced a dilemma. Helen's marriage was not merely a matter of affection, it was a matter of political balance, of alliances, of peace among kingdoms. The suitors who came to court her were strong and proud, many of them accustomed to victory and honor. If one were chosen, the others might feel slighted. Rivalries could flare. Wars could begin. And so Tyndareus needed a solution, one that would keep Greece united instead of divided. Among the suitors was Odysseus, the clever king of Ithaca, whose mind was known for finding calm logic in moments of tension. Odysseus approached Tyndareus quietly and offered a suggestion, one that was simple but brilliant: an oath. Each suitor, he proposed, should swear a sacred promise. They would pledge to stand with and defend the chosen husband of Helen, no matter who he might be. It was an oath bound not only by their pride but by the gods who watched over the proceedings. Once they agreed, there would be no rivalry, no resentment, no sudden conflict, only unity. The idea settled over the gathering like a gentle, cooling breeze, relieving tension with quiet effectiveness. And so, in the presence of Helen and her family, the suitors laid their hands upon the sacred offerings and swore the oath of Tyndareus. It was a moment that felt peaceful on the surface, calm as any formal ceremony, but the oath carried a silent weight, a weight that would echo years later on the distant shores of Troy. When the time came for Helen to choose a husband, she looked upon the gathered men with steady eyes. Their armor gleamed, their faces were proud, each man standing tall and dignified. Yet her gaze rested softly on one, Menelaus, the brother of Agamemnon, known less for the roar of battle and more for his quiet reliability. Menelaus was strong but not boastful, confident but not cruel. He carried a warmth that made him approachable, a gentleness uncommon among kings. Helen's choice fell upon him, and the court of Sparta welcomed the decision with an exhale of relief. Menelaus became king of Sparta, and Helen became his queen. Their home was filled with calm domestic life, shared meals, peaceful conversations, and a sense of stability that wrapped around them like the soft glow of firelight on a winter evening. The palace halls echoed with music in the evenings, and Helen's laughter was said to brighten even the dimmest corners of the great stone rooms. Menelaus admired her not only for her beauty, but for her intelligence, her empathy, and the quiet way she could ease tensions between others. Helen found in Menelaus a partner who respected her, who treated her not as an object of desire but as a companion whose presence gave meaning to his days. For a time, their world was steady, serene, almost untouched by the brewing conflicts beyond the horizon. Yet destiny had already shifted when Paris offered the golden apple to Aphrodite. Though Helen did not know it, her life was slowly aligning with the shepherd prince she had never met. Aphrodite's promise hovered invisibly around her, like a soft thread weaving itself into the fabric of her days. Paris, too, felt a pull he could not name, a quiet anticipation that followed him long after the goddesses left Mount Ida. Neither understood what fate had arranged, nor how soon their paths would cross. The oath of Tyndareus remained sealed, powerful and silent. It lay dormant, like a sleeping giant beneath the peaceful life Helen and Menelaus built together. One day, that oath would awaken, calling upon every kingdom in Greece to honor their promise. But for now, Sparta remained tranquil, bathed in golden light, its queen unaware that her beauty, long admired, long praised, would soon become the center of a storm that would stretch across an entire decade of war. The calm of Sparta's palace, with its gentle fires and soft laughter, existed for only so long before the quiet threads of destiny began to tug at the edges of that serene life. Paris, the shepherd prince of Mount Ida, guided by the promise of Aphrodite, would soon step into a world far beyond the quiet hills he knew. His journey, subtle yet inevitable, began with a quiet decision, a choice that felt natural to him yet carried the weight of kingdoms. As he left the soft meadows and rolling flocks behind, imagine the gentle rustle of olive trees along the path, the morning mist curling softly around his feet, the air warm with the scent of distant seas. The world he was entering shimmered with possibility, as though even nature held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Meanwhile, in the palace of Sparta, Helen and Menelaus went about their lives with the tranquility of those who have known stability and peace. The walls echoed softly with quiet conversation, the smell of baking bread and flowering gardens drifted through open windows, and the sun cast a golden glow across the marbled halls. It was in this world, seemingly calm and ordinary, that Paris arrived. He came not with weapons or pomp, but as a visitor guided by the gentle hand of Aphrodite, his heart quietly pulled toward Helen by promises he did not yet fully understand. The meeting itself, when it happened, was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone else who might have been watching. Yet in that brief encounter, the strands of fate intertwined silently, weaving together hearts and destinies without a word of force or command. The days following Paris' arrival were marked by soft interactions that might seem ordinary to an observer but carried profound implications. He and Helen walked through gardens filled with the scent of blooming flowers, the soft hum of bees drifting lazily through the air. Their conversations were gentle, tinged with curiosity and amusement, each moment layered with a quiet fascination that neither fully recognized at first. Aphrodite's influence, delicate and invisible, guided their feelings as naturally as a stream follows the contours of the land. Nothing in the world felt rushed or abrupt. The air itself seemed to conspire to make these connections feel inevitable yet serene, like the slow unfolding of a flower at dawn. Yet, beneath the calm surface of Sparta, distant ripples of unease quietly began to form. The oath of Tyndareus, made so long ago by Helen's suitors, remained a binding force that few remembered with urgency but would one day awaken with unstoppable power. Paris, unaware of the web surrounding him, stepped further into a role that had been waiting for him for years. Each glance he exchanged with Helen, each gentle word and soft smile, carried weight far beyond what mortal hearts could sense. The tranquility of their interactions masked the silent beginning of something monumental, something that would slowly gather strength, like a wave forming far out at sea before it reaches the shore. Soon, the quiet charm of Sparta gave way to subtle tension, though it moved like a shadow behind the sunlit walls. Paris' stay, calm and polite on the surface, was the spark that would ignite passions and rivalries stretching across the Aegean. Helen's feelings, too, began to shift imperceptibly, carried along by a combination of affection, curiosity, and the mysterious draw of the divine. Menelaus, the steadfast and gentle king, noticed nothing yet felt faintly the subtle currents that would soon pull all lives into motion. It was the kind of change that could be overlooked if one did not pay close attention. A slow, almost imperceptible weaving of hearts, promises, and destiny. As Paris prepared to depart from Sparta, the golden thread of fate stretched taut across the seas, linking him to Helen in a way that neither could escape. The departure itself was quiet, marked not by haste but by careful, deliberate movements. He left as he came, calm, unobtrusive, a shepherd now carrying the weight of the future. Yet the consequences of his visit rippled outward, unnoticed by the world around him. The gentle corridors of Sparta, filled with the soft light of evening, would soon echo with the absence of the queen, a quiet void that would awaken the oath of Tyndareus and summon heroes from distant lands to a journey neither expected nor fully understood. And so, the story begins to stretch beyond simple meetings and quiet glances, moving slowly toward a gathering that would become legendary. Ships would be prepared along distant coasts, the wind would carry the soft sounds of departure across the waters, and the once peaceful lives of kings, queens, and shepherds would begin to shift toward the inevitable rhythm of war. But for now, the world remains calm and gentle, the sun lowering softly in the sky, the shadows lengthening across the land, and the air filled with a quiet sense of anticipation, as though nature itself waits patiently for the great story of Troy to unfold, one subtle moment at a time. Far beyond the sunlit plains of Sparta and the quiet hills of Mount Ida, the story of Troy's coming conflict begins to take shape through the lives of heroes destined to leave their mark on history. Among them, one stands apart, a young man named Achilles, whose very existence seemed woven from both mortal and divine threads. Imagine him not as a figure of endless battle, but as a boy growing beneath the gentle sun, in a world both ordinary and extraordinary, a place where the winds carry the scent of the sea and the soft murmur of rivers blends with birdsong. His life began quietly as all lives do, though destiny already whispered through the folds of his days. Achilles was the son of Peleus, a mortal king of considerable renown, and Thetis, a sea goddess whose presence shimmered like the surface of a still ocean at dawn. Thetis loved her son with a fierce and tender devotion, aware of the fragile beauty of mortality and the weight of fate that rested upon him. She was determined to protect him from the trials that awaited him, and in her quiet, unwavering way, she sought ways to shield him from the paths that might lead to sorrow. Yet even in her care, the threads of destiny were strong, pulling gently but persistently toward the future that could not be altered, no matter how softly she tried to shape it. Picture Achilles in his early days, moving with grace and curiosity through sun-drenched fields, the sand and grass soft beneath his feet. He practiced with spear and bow not out of urgency, but with the playful rhythm of a child learning the world. His mind absorbed the songs of birds, the lessons of nature, and the quiet wisdom of his mother, whose voice was like the ebbing tide, gentle, yet full of a strength that could carry worlds. Even then, the spark of his greatness shone subtly in his actions, the careful precision of his movements, the empathy in his interactions, the quiet determination that would one day define him. Thetis, in her love, sought ways to make Achilles immortal, or at least invulnerable, knowing that the years ahead would demand courage and that the choices he would face could bring both glory and unbearable sorrow. She carried him to sacred waters, immersing him gently in the cool streams that reflected starlight even in daylight, seeking to wash away weakness and imbue strength. Yet she could not grant him complete immunity, and in her heart, she knew that mortality, the delicate fragility of human life, was woven too tightly into the fate of men to be fully removed. There was a quiet tension in her love, the desire to protect and the acceptance that some paths must be walked, no matter how gently one might guide the steps. As Achilles grew, his friendships began to form in the calm rhythms of daily life. Patroclus, his companion, was a figure of soft steadiness, loyal and gentle, offering understanding where Achilles sometimes wrestled with the stirrings of pride and impatience. Their bond was quiet, almost like a current flowing beneath the surface of still water, unseen by the casual observer, yet deeply present and shaping their lives in ways that would ripple outward. Together, they explored the hills, the rivers, and the forests, learning lessons not of battle but of connection, observation, and the unhurried unfolding of time. In these formative years, the shadow of prophecy was ever present, though it hovered like a soft mist rather than a dark cloud. The whispers of the fates, those eternal weavers of mortal destinies, hinted that Achilles would achieve greatness yet suffer deeply. But in the gentle cadence of his youth, these truths were distant murmurs, almost imperceptible against the soft laughter, the rustling of leaves, and the steady rhythm of life. It was a time of learning, of gentle discovery, and of laying the foundation for the hero he would become, a hero not born from haste or violence, but from patient growth, tender guidance, and the quiet shaping of character. Even as the story of Troy loomed on the horizon, Achilles' world remained calm, a small universe where nature, friendship, and family shaped every day. The sea that Thetis embodied whispered to him in moments of solitude, its soft ebb and flow reflecting the rhythm of life and destiny intertwined. The hills and meadows, kissed by the sun and caressed by wind, became spaces of reflection and growth. Each step, each breath, each small choice built upon the last, weaving a tapestry of strength, courage, and compassion that would later define him on the shores of distant lands. As night falls over the quiet world of Phthia, where Achilles lived and learned, the air grows cool and still. The sounds of the day, rustling leaves, distant birds, the gentle lapping of rivers, fade into the calm hush of evening. Here, in this soft moment, the young hero sleeps beneath the protective gaze of his mother, unaware of the wars, the choices, and the great journey that destiny will soon lay before him. And yet, even in rest, the subtle stirrings of fate move gently around him, shaping the tides of history in quiet, imperceptible ways, preparing him for the path that will lead to Troy, to glory, and to sorrow, all unfolding softly under the calm stars of the ancient night. The gentle rhythms of the world carried the heroes of Greece slowly toward the distant shores where Troy awaited, though at this moment, that great city seemed only a soft, distant dream on the horizon. The morning air was cool and quiet as the Greek kings and warriors prepared their ships, not with haste or urgency, but with the careful, deliberate movements of those who understood the long journey ahead. Imagine the sea, stretching endlessly under the soft light of dawn, its surface smooth like glass, reflecting the pale gold and lavender of the early sky. The gentle slap of waves against wooden hulls and the low creak of ropes swaying in the morning breeze set the pace of preparation, calm yet purposeful. The ships themselves were remarkable in their quiet strength, long and steady, carved from sturdy timber and polished with care. Each vessel held warriors, their armor stacked carefully, weapons laid in readiness but untouched for now. The men moved slowly, some speaking in whispers, others lost in thought as they considered the days of travel ahead. Among them were heroes known across the lands: Odysseus, clever and contemplative, walking with quiet assurance; Ajax, towering and steadfast, moving with the calm deliberation of a man used to steady duty; Nestor, wise and measured, his voice soft as he shared advice; and Achilles, still young and unaware of the full weight his name would soon carry, gazing at the horizon with an almost dreamy thoughtfulness. The voyage itself began without fanfare. The ships slipped from the shores in the gentle morning light, cutting quietly through the calm waters, leaving only faint ripples that shimmered in the sun. The wind, soft and steady, filled the sails with a gentle push, guiding the vessels onward. The Greek warriors felt the rhythm of the sea beneath them, the gentle rocking, the low moan of waves against the hull, the scent of salt carried softly on the breeze, a lullaby from nature itself, as if the world was cradling them on their way toward destiny. Yet even the first days of travel held small uncertainties. The Greeks, following the soft guidance of the stars and the murmuring of the sea, arrived first at lands not their intended destination. They landed in a place of gentle hills and quiet streams, Thrania, where the locals watched them curiously. There was no alarm, no battle, only cautious greetings exchanged beneath the warm sun, the tone soft and measured, as if the world itself had yet to awaken fully to the coming events. In these moments, the great heroes moved not as larger-than-life figures, but as men feeling the subtle weight of responsibility, aware that their journey would be long and that patience would be their most steadfast companion. As the days blended into nights, The ships followed the rhythm of the Aegean, moving slowly between islands and across open waters. The sun rose softly, casting amber light across the waves, and set in shades of rose and lavender, leaving the sea calm and reflective. Sailors hummed quiet songs to pass the time, soft melodies that carried over the water like whispers of encouragement. Even the gods seemed to watch, their presence subtle yet palpable, bending the breeze ever so slightly to keep the ship steady, guiding heroes who were both mortal and fallible toward the stage of destiny. Achilles, still young and tender in experience, spent these days observing more than acting. He watched the patterns of the sea, the behaviors of his companions, and the interplay of wind and sail, learning patience without even knowing it. Patroclus, quiet and attentive, followed his side, their bond growing gently with every soft sunrise and shadowed evening. Odysseus offered advice without pressure, teaching lessons wrapped in calm words, and even the great Nestor spoke in measured tones, allowing the younger warriors to absorb wisdom as if it were falling softly like rain on fertile earth. The world of the voyage was at once ordinary and extraordinary. Ordinary, in that men walked the decks, performed their duties, and slept beneath the stars. Extraordinary, in that every gentle wave, every soft whisper of the wind, and every star overhead carried hints of destiny that no mortal could fully perceive. Troy, still distant, awaited across the calm waters, yet the journey itself was a quiet teacher. The men learned patience, observation, and subtle foresight, preparing in their minds and hearts for events that would test courage, loyalty, and the fragile threads of human emotion. In the evenings, when the sun had dipped low and the horizon glowed faintly with the colors of twilight, the sea became a mirror of tranquility. Warriors rested on deck, speaking softly or drifting into sleep under blankets of cool, gentle air. Fires burned in small lanterns, casting flickering shadows that danced across the wood and canvas of the ships. The rhythmic rocking of the vessels, the whisper of sails, and the distant call of seabirds created a lullaby that soothed even the most restless hearts. In these moments, it was easy to imagine the journey stretching endlessly forward, as though time itself moved slowly and purposefully, cradling the heroes in preparation for the moments to come. And so the Greeks sailed, their ships cutting quietly through the calm Aegean waters, carrying warriors of courage, wisdom, and skill toward a destiny that shimmered faintly on the horizon. The land of Troy lay beyond, waiting patiently, as though even cities themselves sensed the slow unfolding of fate. The soft rhythm of the voyage, the gentle undulation of waves, and the quiet companionship of friends and warriors alike shaped each day into a pattern of calm anticipation. It was a journey not defined by haste, but by the subtle accumulation of experiences, the soft shaping of character, and the quiet, patient approach of what was to come. At last, the Greek ships approached the shores near Troy, their long journey across the calm Aegean waters slowly coming to an end. The land that stretched before them seemed both inviting and distant, a gentle rise of hills bathed in morning light, soft forests brushing the horizon, and a coastline kissed by waves that lapped quietly against the sand. There was no immediate urgency, no roaring crowds or clashing armies, only the quiet preparation of men who had traveled far, whose bodies ached gently from weeks at sea, and whose minds were already drifting toward the tasks that awaited them. The Trojan War, though still in its early moments, had begun, quietly and inexorably, like the first whisper of wind before a storm. The first days of the siege were slow and measured, almost meditative in their rhythm. The Greeks established camps along the soft beaches, setting up tents and gathering supplies. Fires were lit in small, controlled patterns, their smoke curling lazily into the sky. Warriors moved with calm purpose, each step deliberate, each duty performed with quiet concentration. The sound of hammering or shouted orders was minimal. Most men worked in a gentle cadence, aware that the long siege would demand patience, endurance, and the steady management of both body and spirit. It was a war that began not with explosive confrontation but with the soft, persistent accumulation of presence, a quiet laying of the foundations for years to come. Within the city walls, Troy stirred in response. Priam, the aged king, moved slowly through his palace, his steps careful and deliberate, weighing each choice with the calm dignity of a ruler who had seen both peace and the shadow of danger. Hecuba, his queen, observed quietly, aware of the subtle tension gathering among her people, yet maintaining composure, guiding her household and the city's inner workings with the soft touch of experience. And Hector, the prince, moved among the citizens and soldiers with measured attention, comforting those who worried, observing those who trained, and preparing for what the future might demand. Each day was marked by quiet diligence, a soft rhythm that masked the growing uncertainty outside the walls. The early skirmishes, too, were subdued. Small parties moved across the open fields and beaches, engaging in minor clashes that were more about testing strength and strategy than overwhelming destruction. Arrows flew, but slowly, their arcs measured, spears were thrown with careful aim, their contact gentle and controlled, leaving room for reflection and adjustment rather than hasty escalation. Even in these small confrontations, the heroes were present not as frenzied warriors but as figures of focus, patience, and skill. The soft discipline of the battlefield shaped the young men and seasoned warriors alike, teaching lessons of timing, foresight, and endurance that would carry them through years of siege. Life during these years was marked by a rhythm that blended preparation with quiet reflection. Camps became places of routine, fires were tended, meals were shared in hushed tones, and conversations unfolded in a manner that allowed thought to drift like clouds across the sky. The Greek kings held councils with a gentle gravity, discussing plans and strategies not with anger or frenzy, but with the slow, careful logic of those aware of the stakes and of the human cost. It was a war that moved in measured steps, each day a quiet prelude to greater action, each night a soft pause under starlit skies where the men could contemplate their place in the unfolding story. Within Troy, the people too experienced the passage of time with a mix of awareness and gentle patience. The city walls stood as silent witnesses, their stones absorbing years of sun, rain, and quiet tension. Citizens moved through markets, children played in shaded courtyards, and the rhythm of domestic life persisted, offering a subtle contrast to the slow march of soldiers along the beaches. Hector's leadership became the thread that bound the city together, his calm demeanor, measured advice, and soft reassurance acting like a gentle balm against the anxieties stirred by the foreign presence outside the walls. Through it all, the gods watched quietly, their influence subtle and indirect. Athena whispered strategies into the minds of Greek leaders in fleeting moments, while Apollo guided Trojan actions with a soft hand, always patient, never overt. The wind, the tides, and even the flight of birds seemed to carry their guidance as tiny, almost imperceptible nudges. Nothing in this early stage of the siege was dramatic or violent beyond measure. The world itself seemed to participate in a slow, deliberate unfolding, where the passage of days taught lessons, shaped minds, and prepared heroes and citizens alike for events far beyond their present understanding. Time itself moved gently during these early years. Seasons changed imperceptibly, the sun arcing across the sky in steady rhythm, the wind carrying soft scents of distant flowers and salt from the sea. The campfires glowed each night, reflected in calm waters, and the occasional quiet song of a soldier or a distant lyre drifted across the beach. This was a war measured in patience, a test of endurance, and a prolonged dance of quiet forces building toward the inevitable. The first years of the Trojan siege were less about clashing armies and more about the slow accumulation of presence, the careful observation of strengths and weaknesses, and the quiet shaping of relationships and rivalries that would later flare into moments of legendary action. And so, life on both sides of the walls continued in gentle contrast. The Greeks waiting on the soft sands, the Trojans observing from behind stone fortifications, each day passing in a rhythm that allowed reflection, strategy, and small personal interactions. The war, though inevitable, moved like a slow tide rather than a sudden storm, teaching patience, endurance, and the quiet understanding that history itself is often shaped as much by measured, calm steps as by moments of dramatic conflict. In this way, the early years of the siege became a gentle prelude to the tales of heroism, sorrow, and love that would soon fill the air and echo across the centuries. As the years of the Trojan siege continued, the quiet rhythm of life on both sides of the walls became a steady, almost meditative cadence. Though the war had begun in earnest, much of its early course was defined not by dramatic clashes but by preparation, observation, and the slow unfolding of human character. Picture the Greek camp, tents lined carefully along the beach, smoke curling lazily from small fires, the faint scent of cooking mingling with the salty air. Soldiers moved with calm purpose, tending to their armor and weapons, or quietly practicing their skills with measured precision. The sound of the waves lapping against the hulls of anchored ships became a gentle drumbeat, echoing the steady pulse of life and the slow march of destiny. Among the Greeks, the tension was subtle yet persistent, like the faint rustle of leaves warning of a distant storm. Leaders such as Agamemnon, king of men, and Odysseus, clever and contemplative, walked among their warriors with soft, deliberate steps, offering counsel, encouragement, and reminders of the promises that bound them. Their words were measured, never harsh, carrying a calm authority that guided the men without pressing upon them too forcefully. The young heroes, including Achilles, spent their days balancing moments of quiet reflection with bursts of disciplined training. Each arrow loosed, each spear thrown, each step taken in practice carried weight, not only in skill but in understanding the patience and endurance required for the long years ahead. On the other side, Troy mirrored this rhythm in its own way. The city's stone walls stood silently under the sun, absorbing the quiet tension and reflecting it back into the streets, markets, and homes of its citizens. Hector, the eldest son of Priam and the city's primary defender, moved calmly among the people, attending to their fears and hopes with gentle words and measured actions. Soldiers drilled with quiet concentration, while artisans and families carried on their routines, maintaining the soft pulse of life within the city even as the shadow of war stretched across the hills. In these years, Troy did not burn. It breathed, lived, and prepared with patient diligence, each moment a gentle building block for the trials yet to come. Amid the calm, small events carried profound significance. Scouts moved silently along the outskirts of the city, observing enemy movements and returning with detailed reports that were discussed in hushed tones around campfires. Every decision, from the placement of defenses to the allocation of supplies, was made with quiet deliberation, each choice echoing through the unfolding tapestry of fate. The men and women of Troy, though aware of the Greek presence, carried on with daily life as best they could, their actions steady and deliberate, reflecting a resilience that seemed to grow with each passing season. Meanwhile, the gods watched with subtle hands, their influence present but gentle, like the soft tug of the wind across calm seas. Athena whispered strategy into the minds of Greek commanders, guiding decisions with quiet precision. Apollo, moving with equal care, lent inspiration and protection to the Trojans, subtly shaping their responses and reinforcing their patience. None of these divine interventions were loud or forceful. They were small, almost imperceptible nudges that, over the long years, would guide outcomes while maintaining the serenity of the world around them. Even the soft play of sunlight across the waves or the gentle sway of trees carried the whisper of their presence, reminding mortals that fate and guidance often move quietly, almost invisibly, until the moment is ready to reveal itself fully. Time passed slowly, marked by subtle changes in seasons and weather. The warm, calm mornings gradually gave way to afternoons tinted with soft golden sunlight, and evenings settled into hues of rose and lavender, reflecting upon the tranquil sea. Soldiers rested beneath the tents, sharing soft conversation, stories of home, and quiet laughter that floated across the beach. Children in Troy played cautiously in courtyards, their soft voices mingling with the hum of daily life. Even in the tension of war, life moved forward in gentle, almost hypnotic cycles, teaching the heroes patience, endurance, and reflection in ways that no sudden clash of swords could. During these quiet years, relationships grew stronger and subtler. Bonds of friendship among the Greeks deepened, particularly between Achilles and Patroclus, whose shared calm and understanding created a foundation of loyalty and empathy. Across the city walls, Hector's measured interactions with family and soldiers reinforced the stability of Troy, grounding the citizens in the confidence that, despite the prolonged uncertainty, their city would endure. These slow-building connections were as important to the story as battles or victories, shaping the emotional and moral landscape of the world while maintaining a soothing rhythm for all who observed. And so, the early years of the Trojan War moved forward like a soft, flowing river, steady, calm, and deliberate. Each day was a lesson in patience, each night a lullaby under the stars, each quiet action a step toward the inevitable moments of heroism, sorrow, and love that history would remember. Though the city walls of Troy and the ships of Greece stood ready for conflict, the world seemed to breathe slowly around them, as if nature itself recognized the need for careful preparation before the storm of legend could finally unfold. In this way, the siege was not only a test of skill and courage but also a study in endurance, reflection, and the quiet power of time, the gentle, steady shaping of fate before it arrived with dramatic clarity.
As the siege of Troy continued, the soft rhythm of life both within the city walls and along the Greek encampments became a slow, measured flow, almost hypnotic in its steadiness. Days melted into one another, each carrying subtle moments of preparation, quiet reflection, and minor skirmishes that taught patience and endurance rather than producing dramatic spectacle. The horizon, stretching endlessly over the calm waters, seemed to cradle both sides of the conflict in a gentle embrace, as though nature itself sought to maintain balance while the threads of fate gradually intertwined. Within the Greek camp, warriors rose with the sun, their routines unfolding like a gentle ritual. Some polished their weapons slowly, letting the soft scrape of metal against metal guide their focus, while others checked supplies or attended to fires, the smell of smoke mixing faintly with salt from the sea. The day moved at a steady pace, punctuated by measured exercises and quiet council discussions. Odysseus, ever observant, wandered among the men with soft footsteps, offering advice in a tone that was neither commanding nor hurried. His words, carefully chosen and wrapped in calm reasoning, guided the younger warriors as they absorbed lessons in strategy, patience, and the subtle art of leadership. Achilles, meanwhile, spent these days walking along the quiet beaches or near the gentle slopes behind the camp, letting the rhythm of the sea soothe his restless mind. Waves rolled softly against the sand, leaving thin white lace patterns that shimmered briefly before fading, a gentle reminder of the impermanence of each moment. Patroclus accompanied him, their conversations quiet, full of observation and gentle reflection rather than boastful talk or idle chatter. In these calm moments, the bonds between them deepened, their loyalty and understanding growing like the roots of a strong tree, hidden beneath the surface yet shaping every movement above. On the Trojan side, Hector moved with quiet authority, his presence steadying both soldiers and citizens alike. He walked slowly through courtyards, visited the soldiers training under the warm sun, and offered words of encouragement in a tone that was soft yet firm. The people of Troy, sensing his composed confidence, felt their own anxieties lessen slightly, though the shadow of war lingered like a faint breeze through the city. Hecuba, the queen, tended to the softer threads of domestic life, comforting children, offering advice to the women, and keeping the palace in gentle order, ensuring that Troy remained a place of calm continuity even as the larger conflict stretched on. The first skirmishes of real consequence were slow and deliberate, almost choreographed in their precision rather than chaotic in their execution. Small groups of soldiers from both sides tested each other, moving carefully across open fields, the soft thud of footfalls and shields blending with the muted hum of distant waves. Arrows arched gracefully through the sky, landing with purpose, each measured shot a quiet exercise in patience and control. Even when contact occurred, it was restrained, a matter of assessing strength and tactics rather than seeking immediate triumph. The early engagements, almost imperceptible in their drama, allowed both sides to learn and adapt, to grow steadily in skill and understanding while maintaining a calm rhythm that seemed almost meditative. In the evenings, the camp and city alike were bathed in soft twilight, the sky melting into shades of rose, lavender, and gold. Fires flickered gently, sending dancing shadows across tents, walls, and streets. The smell of cooked meals, mingled with smoke and the faint salt of the sea, filled the air. Soldiers rested quietly, sharing hushed conversations or letting their minds wander as the stars began to appear, twinkling softly above. The rhythmic rocking of ships at anchor echoed faintly in the distance, a gentle reminder of the vast waters they had traversed and the long journey yet to come. During these calm intervals, Personal relationships strengthened quietly but profoundly. Achilles' quiet strength, tempered by reflection and gentle counsel from Patroclus and mentors like Nestor, began to shape him into a hero whose greatness was measured not only by skill, but by wisdom and awareness. Across the walls of Troy, Hector's steady presence fostered a sense of community and resilience, reinforcing bonds among soldiers and citizens alike. These relationships, built in quiet moments of observation, guidance, and empathy, were as crucial to the story as any battlefield triumph or heroic feat. Even the gods continued their subtle influence, their guidance soft and almost imperceptible. Athena whispered strategies into Greek leaders' minds like a gentle wind guiding sails, while Apollo lent quiet protection and encouragement to Troy, ensuring that the long years of siege maintained a rhythm that could sustain heroes and citizens alike. The divine presence was never overt, never loud, but always present, shaping the currents of human action like a soft undercurrent beneath calm waters, guiding destiny without breaking the gentle flow of life. As the days passed, time itself seemed to stretch and slow, each moment a soft meditation on patience and preparation. The Greek camp and the Trojan city coexisted in this delicate balance, the tension of conflict softened by the measured passage of days. Every step, every action, every quiet conversation contributed to the intricate, unhurried weaving of fate, building the foundation for the monumental events yet to come. In these early years of siege, life and war were inseparable from reflection, endurance, and subtle learning, a calm prelude to the legendary deeds and heart-wrenching losses that would define the story of Troy in the years ahead. As the years of the Trojan siege settled into their quiet, relentless rhythm, both the Greeks and Trojans grew accustomed to the subtle ebb and flow of tension, reflection, and preparation. The war had begun, yet the true weight of battle came slowly, like a tide that rises imperceptibly until it sweeps everything in its path. On the Greek side, warriors moved through their daily routines with steady purpose, their actions measured, deliberate, almost meditative. Each morning, the sun rose gently over the calm sea, glinting softly off the ripples that lapped against anchored ships. Soldiers stirred beneath the canvas of their tents, tending to armor and weapons with meticulous care, their movements precise, controlled, and almost hypnotic in repetition. The smell of the sea mingled with the faint smoke of small cooking fires, and the rhythmic sounds of clinking metal and soft conversation filled the camp with a calm, steady pulse. Leaders like Agamemnon maintained the order and focus of the encampment, walking among the tents with quiet authority, offering gentle guidance rather than forceful commands. His words were thoughtful and measured, designed to instill confidence and clarity rather than fear or anxiety. Odysseus moved among the men similarly, speaking softly, weaving advice and insight into casual conversation, ensuring that lessons in strategy and foresight settled into the minds of those around him without the pressure of urgency. Even the young Achilles, who had grown in strength and skill since the early days of the voyage, spent much of his time in quiet observation, practicing with deliberate care and reflecting on the unfolding events with a contemplative mind. His relationship with Patroclus deepened with every passing day, their bond a quiet yet unshakable anchor amid the uncertainty and slow tension that hovered over the camp. Across the fields and walls of Troy, a similar rhythm persisted, though in a more defensive, watchful tone. Hector, the steadfast prince, moved among soldiers and citizens alike, ensuring that both preparations and morale remained steady. He spoke with soft authority, his words carrying reassurance and calm logic, offering guidance that strengthened both courage and patience. Trojans trained daily, practicing with measured precision, their movements fluid and controlled rather than frantic, each motion a small step toward readiness. Women, children, and elders continued their lives inside the city walls, maintaining a sense of normalcy, the quiet pulse of domestic life providing a soft counterbalance to the tension just beyond the gates. Hecuba, the queen, moved among them with gentle care, calming fears, tending to minor injuries, and offering wisdom to those struggling with the long years of uncertainty. During this time, smaller confrontations took place in a gentle, calculated manner. Patrols tested defenses, scouts reported on enemy movements, and occasional skirmishes unfolded with careful control rather than chaotic frenzy. Arrows sailed through the air in graceful arcs, spears struck with measured intent, and the clash of shields remained muted and precise, almost like a soft percussion accompanying the rhythm of preparation. These early encounters were less about victory or defeat and more about learning, adapting, and observing both the capabilities of allies and the strategies of opponents. Each small interaction, each careful engagement, helped to shape understanding, patience, and resilience, qualities that would become critical as the war stretched on through years of unrelenting siege. The nights during this phase were especially tranquil, yet filled with quiet reflection. The sun would dip behind distant hills, leaving the sky awash in soft shades of rose, lavender, and muted gold. Lanterns and small fires flickered gently in the Greek encampments, casting long, dancing shadows across the sand and wooden planks of ships. Soldiers rested, spoke in low whispers, or let their minds drift over memories of home, dreams of honor and quiet fears. Across the walls of Troy, families lit candles, shared meals, and sang soft songs to soothe themselves and their children, preserving a sense of humanity amid the constant, underlying tension of the prolonged siege. Even the night itself seemed alive with gentle energy. The rustle of leaves, the soft lap of waves, and the distant cry of seabirds forming a subtle lullaby that blanketed both camps in calm. The gods continued their quiet guidance during these years, unseen but subtly shaping events with gentle influence. Athena whispered insights into the minds of Greek leaders, nudging strategies and tactics in directions that favored skillful outcomes. Apollo and other divine figures lent similar quiet support to the Trojans, ensuring that the siege, though protracted and tense, remained balanced, allowing each side to grow in understanding, patience, and awareness. These divine interventions were never overwhelming or obvious. Rather, they moved like a soft current beneath the surface of mortal experience, guiding choices and subtly influencing outcomes over time. Meanwhile, the emotional and moral dimensions of the conflict deepened. Bonds of friendship, loyalty, and courage strengthened on both sides, quietly shaping the human landscape of the siege. Achilles and Patroclus shared long walks along the quiet beaches, spoke in soft tones about their thoughts and fears, and found solace in one another's steady presence. Hector moved among soldiers and citizens alike, offering encouragement and fostering quiet confidence, reinforcing a sense of resilience and duty. In the small, almost imperceptible gestures, a word of advice, a shared meal, a careful observation, the foundations of heroism were laid, slowly, deliberately, and with gentle attention to the human heart. And so, life during this extended, measured phase of the Trojan War unfolded like the soft flow of a river. Days and nights passed in calm rhythm, punctuated by quiet drills, minor encounters, reflective walks, and the steady guidance of leaders and mentors. The tension of the siege existed not in explosive moments, but in the accumulation of small, deliberate actions that built endurance, understanding, and preparation for the challenges yet to come. In this slow, immersive unfolding, the story of Troy grew richer, its heroes more defined, and the audience, though witnessing quiet events, could feel the subtle pull of destiny, drawing every figure toward the monumental moments that would define the legend for centuries. As the siege of Troy stretched into its later years, a rhythm of life settled over both the Greek encampments and the city itself, a rhythm that was at once steady and full of quiet tension. The days passed with deliberate calm, each morning unfolding slowly beneath the soft warmth of the sun. On the Greek side, tents lined the beaches and gentle slopes, the subtle aroma of smoke from cooking fires blending with the ever-present scent of salt from the sea. Soldiers moved with soft precision, polishing armor, checking weapons, and practicing quietly, their footsteps measured, almost like a slow heartbeat marking the passage of time. The atmosphere was one of preparation and reflection rather than immediate action, each small task contributing to the larger rhythm of war that stretched patiently before them. Achilles, now grown into a young man of remarkable skill and presence, moved through these days with contemplative focus. His companionship with Patroclus remained the quiet anchor of his life. Two friends walking along the soft sand, speaking in gentle tones, observing the ebb and flow of life around them, and letting thoughts drift like clouds across the horizon. Achilles' strength and skill were tempered by patience, his awareness deepened by subtle instruction from leaders such as Odysseus and Nestor. Every practice, every gentle sparring session, every measured movement carried the weight of potential, yet also the calm of deliberate preparation. Even in moments of rest, as he watched the sun shimmer across the tranquil sea, The presence of destiny was palpable, soft but unyielding, as though the world itself whispered reminders of what lay ahead. In Troy, life carried its own measured cadence. Hector, calm and vigilant, walked the city walls, visiting soldiers and citizens alike, offering reassurance and quiet guidance. Each training session, each allocation of supplies, and each conversation with his people was done with meticulous care, maintaining order and preparing the city for the inevitability of battle. Inside the walls, families carried on their routines, tending to gardens, maintaining homes, and nurturing children, providing an invisible layer of resilience that strengthened the city from within. Hecuba and other women moved gently among these households, providing counsel, comfort, and care, weaving a quiet network of support that would prove as vital to Troy's endurance as the stones of its fortifications. Scouts continued to move along the outskirts of the city and the Greek encampments, observing movements, reporting quietly, and ensuring that both sides adapted to the subtle changes of time and circumstance. These early, measured confrontations were often more about observation and strategy than actual combat. Arrows sailed gracefully through the air, landing with careful precision. Spears were tested, shields clashed lightly, each moment a slow, deliberate learning exercise rather than an immediate push toward destruction. The experience shaped the soldiers' understanding of patience, tactics, and endurance, teaching lessons that would resonate through years of prolonged conflict. The nights during these later years were particularly calm, yet charged with silent anticipation. As the sun dipped behind distant hills, the sky softened into gentle shades of rose, lavender, and amber, casting a serene glow over both city and camp. Lanterns and fires flickered quietly, illuminating tents and streets with gentle light. Soldiers rested, speaking softly or letting their thoughts drift toward home, honor, and the friends who would become their steady companions in this long ordeal. The rhythmic lapping of waves against anchored ships and the whisper of the evening wind became a natural lullaby, blending seamlessly with the quiet stirrings of anticipation that hung over both Greek and Trojan hearts. Divine influence continued to shape events subtly, like currents beneath calm waters. Athena whispered strategies into the minds of Greek leaders, while Apollo lent gentle guidance to Troy's defenders, ensuring that actions remained balanced and deliberate. The gods' interventions were never forceful or sudden. They moved like soft breezes, shifting thoughts and actions gently over time. Mortals rarely noticed a touch of divinity, yet their presence ensured that the rhythm of the siege, its patience, reflection, and subtle tensions, unfolded with purpose, preparing both sides for the legendary deeds that would follow. Within this quiet world, relationships deepened and loyalty solidified. Achilles' bond with Patroclus strengthened into an almost unspoken understanding, a source of comfort and guidance amid the long, measured passage of time. Hector's influence extended across the walls of Troy, fostering courage and stability, quietly reminding citizens and soldiers alike of the strength of unity and careful attention. These subtle, personal interactions became the foundation of heroism and endurance, a gentle counterpoint to the violence and chaos that awaited in the years ahead. And so, the siege continued, moving at a measured pace that emphasized reflection, preparation, and the subtle unfolding of human character. Each day passed gently, yet carried significance. Every quiet task, conversation, and observation layered meaning onto the slow march of events. The world around Troy and the Greek camp maintained its calm, almost hypnotic rhythm, cradling warriors and citizens alike, while destiny, soft yet unyielding, wove its intricate patterns, preparing them all for the dramatic and transformative moments that would eventually define the story of the Trojan War. As the siege of Troy lingered on through the passing seasons, the world seemed to settle into a slow, meditative rhythm, where the tension of war existed alongside a quiet, almost hypnotic calm. On both sides of the conflict, the days unfolded gently, punctuated by small, deliberate actions and subtle reflections. The Greek warriors moved along the soft sands of their encampments, their feet brushing against warm grains as the sun cast a golden glow over tents and anchored ships. Fires smoked faintly, mingling their earthy scent with a salt-laden breeze drifting in from the calm sea. Armor was polished slowly, shields checked and tested with measured care, and weapons were balanced in hands trained to act with precision. Each motion carried a gentle weight, a quiet understanding that patience and preparation were as essential to the siege as courage and skill. Achilles continued his days in quiet contemplation, moving along the shoreline, watching the waves roll gently toward the sand, and letting the rhythm of the sea guide his thoughts. Patroclus remained at his side, their conversation soft, reflective, and filled with small discoveries about each other, life, and the world beyond the camp. Training sessions became exercises in both skill and patience. Every arrow loosed, every spear thrown, and every shield maneuver practiced with a quiet mindfulness. The youth of Achilles had matured, tempered by observation, reflection, and gentle guidance from mentors like Odysseus and Nestor. Even as his strength and prowess grew, so did his understanding of patience, loyalty, and the subtle currents of human emotion. Within Troy, Hector moved with calm authority, visiting soldiers who trained beneath the warm sun, speaking in low, reassuring tones, and observing citizens as they carried out their daily routines. Families tended gardens, children played cautiously in quiet courtyards, and artisans worked with steady hands, maintaining the pulse of life that underpinned the city's endurance. Hecuba and other women moved with soft, measured care, offering guidance, comfort, and support that strengthened the fragile threads of human connection within the walls. Every conversation, every gesture, every act of calm attention added to the resilience of Troy, ensuring that the city remained vibrant and steady even as the distant presence of the Greek encampments cast a shadow of anticipation. The small skirmishes of this period were careful and restrained, almost ceremonial in their precision. Scouts moved along the outskirts, reporting quietly to their leaders, while patrols tested defenses with measured steps. Arrows sailed through the air in slow, graceful arcs, and spears struck with controlled intent, teaching both sides the nuances of timing, positioning, and restraint. Even the noise of conflict was subdued, a gentle percussion accompanying the steady rhythm of preparation and reflection. In these subtle exchanges, warriors learned endurance, patience, and strategic observation, honing both skill and character in a slow, deliberate process. The nights brought a particular serenity, despite the looming presence of war. As the sun dipped behind distant hills, the sky softened into hues of pink, lavender, and gold. Lanterns flickered in the Greek camp, casting moving shadows over tents and ships. Soldiers rested, spoke softly, or let their thoughts drift to family, home, and honor. Across the walls of Troy, households glowed with candlelight. Quiet meals were shared, and soft songs carried through the streets. Even the night itself seemed to hum gently, the rustle of leaves, distant waves, and whisper wind forming a natural lullaby that wrapped both sides of siege in calm and subtle reflection. The influence of the gods remained quiet, but palpable. Athena whispered strategies to Greek leaders, Apollo lent soft guidance to Trojans, and other divine presences nudged events ever so gently, shaping the subtle currents of human action without disturbing the calm rhythm of the world. Mortals rarely recognized these soft interventions, yet the invisible hand of fate continued its slow, deliberate weaving, ensuring that every action, every choice, and every quiet reflection contributed to the unfolding story. Amid this calm, the bonds between warriors deepened further. Achilles and Patroclus spent long hours walking along beaches and quiet paths behind the camp, sharing observations, fears, and gentle reassurances. Hector continued to strengthen the resilience of the city through quiet leadership and soft counsel. Loyalty, friendship, and courage were cultivated not in sudden moments of action, but in small, consistent, and attentive gestures. Every shared conversation, measured decision, and reflective pause added layers to the story, shaping both heroism and human character in ways that would only become fully apparent in the years to come. And so, the siege continued, moving at a measured, almost hypnotic pace. The rhythm of days and nights, the gentle repetition of tasks, and the soft interplay of human relationships carried the story forward, building the foundation for the legendary events that would define the tale of Troy. Every small, deliberate action, each footstep along the sand, each arrow loose with care, each gentle conversation, added to the slow, steady unfolding of fate. Time, patience, and reflection became as important as courage and strength, shaping the hearts and minds of heroes and citizens alike. While the quiet presence of the natural world and the gods maintained a calm, immersive cadence that prepared all for the monumental moments yet to come. As the years of the Trojan siege gently rolled on, a soft, steady rhythm became the backdrop of life for both Greeks and Trojans. Time seemed to stretch, almost like a quiet breath, carrying with the subtle unfolding of events, relationships, and the shaping of heroes. On the Greek side, the morning light bathed the encampment in a golden glow, filtering through the tents and reflecting off polished armor and shields. Soldiers moved deliberately, each step careful, each motion practiced, whether tending fires, checking weapons, or quietly sparring with one another. The gentle clash of metal, the rustle of tents, and the occasional low hum of conversation became part of a natural rhythm that encouraged focus, reflection, and a patient endurance that stretched across the years. Achilles walked along the calm shores, the waves curling softly around his feet as he considered the long, winding path of his life. Patroclus accompanied him, their voices soft and reflective, weaving quiet discussions of strategy, loyalty, and human nature into the gentle cadence of their steps. Training continued, not in a frantic rush, but as a series of deliberate exercises, each repetition teaching precision, patience, and control. Even moments of rest carried meaning, watching the sunlight shimmer across the sea, listening to the distant calls of seabirds, and feeling the soft pull of the tide seemed to imprint lessons of resilience and reflection into the heart of the young warrior. Within Troy, Hector maintained a calm, steady pulse of city. He walked through training grounds and streets alike, observing drills and speaking gently to soldiers, offering advice and reassurance that instilled confidence rather than fear. Citizens carried on their lives within the walls, tending homes, gardens, and workshops, their quiet activities maintaining a subtle but crucial rhythm. Children's laughter floated through courtyards, mingling with the soft sounds of daily work and the distant shuffle of soldiers on patrol. Hecuba and the women of Troy moved gracefully among the households, offering guidance, comfort, and encouragement that helped sustain the fragile stability of the city. Every gesture, every word, every careful action contributed to a calm, continuous thread of resilience that strengthened the city as surely as walls of stone. The skirmishes and reconnaissance missions during this phase were careful and deliberate, emphasizing observation and strategy over dramatic violence. Scouts moved silently, reporting the positions and movements of the enemy. Small engagements, when they occurred, were executed with meticulous precision. Arrows flew in smooth arcs, spears struck in measured force, and the clash of shields created a gentle rhythm, almost like percussion accompanying a slow, steady dance. These small encounters were not moments of glory, but lessons in timing, endurance, and quiet leadership, shaping the skills of both soldiers and commanders alike. Evenings in both camp and city became times of gentle reflection. The sun dipped softly behind distant hills, painting the sky in shades of lavender, rose, and soft gold. Fires flickered gently in the Greek camp, casting long, moving shadows across tents, sand, and anchored ships. Soldiers rested, spoke quietly with companions, or allowed their thoughts to drift toward home, honor, and the uncertain future. In Troy, candlelight and hearth fires glowed softly in homes, and soft songs of comfort and tradition drifted through quiet streets. The rhythmic lap of waves against the shore and the whisper wind through trees formed a natural lullaby, enveloping both sides of the siege in calm and continuity. The subtle presence of the gods remained ever influential, though quiet and unobtrusive. Athena continued to offer guidance to Greek leaders, whispering strategic insights into their minds, while Apollo and other deities influenced Trojan defenses and decisions with gentle precision. The divine touch was never forceful, but like a soft current beneath the surface, it guided thoughts, actions, and outcomes, ensuring that the measured rhythm of events continued without abrupt disturbance. Mortals might not perceive these interventions directly, yet they felt the impact in the growing awareness, patience, and understanding that shaped every decision. Relationships deepened during this long, quiet period. Achilles and Patroclus shared countless hours walking along quiet beaches, observing the world, discussing life, and drawing strength from one another's steady presence. Hector quietly fostered loyalty and courage among soldiers and citizens, offering reassurance that built confidence while preserving calm. Even the smallest gestures, a word of comfort, an observation of skill, or a shared meal, carried significance, quietly nurturing the bonds that would prove essential as the story of Troy unfolded in greater intensity. Through these soft, immersive years, both the Greek and Trojan sides were prepared not only for physical battles, but for the emotional and moral challenges that awaited. Every day, every small action, every moment of reflection strengthened the fabric of endurance and character that would define the heroes of this tale. Life moved forward like a gentle river, slow, deliberate, and quietly shaping the course of destiny. Each repetition of calm routines, each measured conversation, each subtle act of guidance added layers of depth to the story, ensuring that when the tides of fate rose higher, every participant, warrior and citizen alike, was ready to meet the challenges with both courage and reflection. And so, the siege continued, steady, immersive, and patient. Time moved softly, carrying with it the quiet shaping of character, loyalty, and heroism. The sun, sea, and wind marked the passage of days in gentle rhythm, while both Greeks and Trojans carried their preparations, relationships, and reflections forward, unaware that these slow, deliberate years were weaving the foundation for the dramatic, legendary moments of bravery, sorrow, and love that would define the history of Troy for all time. As the long years of the Trojan siege unfolded, the world seemed to slow around both Greeks and Trojans, creating a rhythm that was almost hypnotic in its persistence. The days blended gently into one another, with the soft warmth of the sun rising over calm waters and casting a golden light over the Greek encampments and the city of Troy alike. Tents and anchored ships lined the beaches, their subtle movements in the gentle sea breeze, creating a quiet, steady rhythm that mirrored the lives of the soldiers within. The sound of the waves softly lapping against the shore mingled with the low hum of conversation, the gentle scraping of metal as armor was polished, and the measured thud of shields being tested. Each sound a part of the calm symphony of preparation that stretched over months and years. Achilles continued to grow, not only in strength and skill, but in patience and reflection. Each morning he would walk along the soft sands, letting the rhythm of the waves guide his thoughts, his eyes scanning the horizon as if seeking the distant shadow of destiny. Patroclus remained by his side, their quiet conversations a soft, steady current of companionship and understanding. Training was a careful, deliberate practice. Arrows loose in slow, measured arcs, spears tested for balance and precision, shields raised and lowered with attention to form rather than speed. Every repetition carried weight, instilling not only physical skill but also patience, awareness, and a deepening understanding of the subtle interplay between strategy, human emotion, and endurance. Across the walls of Troy, Hector moved with steady authority, maintaining calm in the hearts of soldiers and citizens alike. Training grounds echoed softly with the movements of disciplined soldiers, while families went about their daily lives, tending gardens, maintaining homes, and nurturing children. Hecuba and the women of Troy moved quietly among households, offering comfort, counsel, and reassurance, weaving a gentle, invisible network of stability that kept the city's spirit alive even as the Greek camp lingered in the distance. Every small act of attention, a gentle word to a soldier, the sharing of a meal, the careful tending of a garden, reinforced the resilience that would become essential in the days when the calm of preparation gave way to the chaos of battle. Even the minor skirmishes of these years were deliberate and controlled, lessons in strategy more than acts of destruction. Scouts crept quietly along the outskirts, observing movements and returning with measured reports. Small engagements occurred with precision and restraint, arrows flying gracefully, spears striking in controlled arcs, and shields meeting with a soft, rhythmic clang. These encounters taught subtle lessons in timing, positioning, and endurance. They allowed both Greeks and Trojans to adapt to each other's methods, to anticipate moves, and understand the patience required for a conflict that could span years rather than days. The evenings brought a special calm. The sun sank behind distant hills, bathing the horizon in soft shades of lavender, rose, and pale gold. Fires flickered gently in the Greek encampment, casting shadows that danced slowly across the sand, tents, and the hulls of anchored ships. Soldiers rested in hushed conversation, reflecting on their day and contemplating the long road ahead. In Troy, candles and hearth fires glowed softly, filling homes with warm light. Children's laughter drifted through quiet courtyards, mingling with the gentle clatter of daily activity, creating a sense of continuity and resilience even under the shadow of war. The night itself seemed to breathe in a slow, calming rhythm, with the rustle of leaves, the distant sound of waves, and the whisper of wind forming a soft, natural lullaby. The gods continued their subtle influence in this prolonged period, guiding the fates of both Greeks and Trojans in ways almost imperceptible. Athena whispered strategies to Greek leaders. Apollo lent quiet protection to Troy, and other divine presences gently influence the course of events without disturbing the calm rhythm of the world. Mortals may not have been aware of these divine nudges, yet the gentle shaping of destiny unfolded continuously beneath their awareness, reinforcing the steady flow of preparation, reflection, and endurance. Throughout this period, relationships deepened quietly but profoundly. Achilles and Patroclus' bond became an unspoken pillar of trust, their companionship a steady source of strength in the slow progression of the siege. Hector's guidance of soldiers and citizens reinforced loyalty and courage, fostering confidence without the need for harsh commands or dramatic displays. Even the smallest gestures, a word of comfort, a gentle touch, or a shared meal, carried significance, quietly weaving together the fabric of heroism, human connection, and moral resilience. And so, life continued along this calm, deliberate path. Each day, each quiet task, each reflective conversation, added a layer of preparation and endurance that would serve the heroes and citizens alike in the challenges yet to come. The siege moved forward like a gentle tide, with the soft rhythm of daily life carrying the weight of destiny, subtly shaping the characters, relationships, and strategies that would define the epic story of Troy. Time, patience, and reflection became as essential to victory as courage and strength, and every quiet moment contributed to the intricate, immersive tapestry of human experience that would echo through the ages. The war had been raging for years, yet amidst the chaos and uncertainty, a strange rhythm had emerged, one that balanced action with reflection, preparation with observation, and tension with moments of calm. In the Greek camp, life unfolded like a slowly turning wheel, each day blending seamlessly into the next, yet filled with small, deliberate movements that carried great significance. Tents swayed softly in the warm breeze, their fabrics rustling gently, harmonizing with the faint crash of waves upon the shore. Fires glowed steadily across the sand, the smoke curling upward in thin spirals that dissolved into the pale sky, carried with its sense of roasting meat, simmering herbs, and the ever-present salt of the sea. Soldiers moved carefully, their steps measured, performing tasks with quiet precision, polishing armor until it reflected the sunlight like liquid, checking the alignment of shields, inspecting weapons, and practicing in rhythmic drills that honed strength, balance, and endurance. Every motion was purposeful, yet unhurried. Every breath was deliberate, as though time itself had slowed to accommodate the prolonged passage of the siege. Achilles, now a figure both formidable and contemplative, often walked along the sandy shoreline accompanied by Patroclus, his closest companion. Their steps were soft on the warm sand, leaving transient footprints that the tide would soon erase. Conversations between the two varied. Sometimes they spoke of loyalty, honor, and courage. At other times, they reflected on human nature, the subtleties of emotion, and the quiet intricacies of fate. Yet often, silence dominated, allowing the rhythmic pulse of the waves, the distant cries of seabirds, and the gentle wind to guide their thoughts. In these moments, they learned lessons no battle could teach: patience, awareness, mindfulness, and the understanding that true heroism involved not only action, but also thoughtful reflection and deliberate restraint. Each gentle wave, each shift of light across the sand, each distant bird call became a teacher, offering subtle instruction in timing, observation, and the deeper meaning of the life they led. Training had transformed into a meditative practice, a ritual of discipline and awareness. Arrows flew in long, graceful arcs, landing with soft precision in the sand or against practice targets, teaching focus, control, and patience. Spears rotated in the hands of warriors with careful attention to weight, balance, and trajectory, their steps timed to maintain harmony with breath and motion. Shields clashed in rhythmic, soft clangs, creating a subdued percussion that filled the camp without harshness or urgency. Even in periods of rest, Achilles and Patroclus observed the world around them. The shimmer of sunlight across water, the slow movement of clouds, the interplay of shadow and light across sand and tents. Each observation reinforced awareness, patience, and the deep connection between action and consequence, teaching that heroism required both skill and reflection. Meanwhile, within the walls of Troy, Hector moved with steady authority. Walking through training grounds and city streets, he offered guidance with calm, measured words, encouraging soldiers while observing their form and technique. Citizens continued daily routines with quiet determination, tending gardens, repairing homes, teaching children and maintaining the rhythms of domestic life that gave the city strength and continuity. Hecuba and other women moved gracefully among households, providing care, counsel, and reassurance, creating a soft, steady foundation that allowed both soldiers and civilians to endure the prolonged shadow of war. Each gesture, no matter how small, carried weight, reinforcing the moral, emotional, and practical stability of Troy. Even amidst the tension, these acts of quiet devotion shaped the city, ensuring that courage and loyalty thrived alongside patience and reflection. Scouting missions and minor skirmishes punctuated the days with controlled bursts of movement. Scouts moved silently across the periphery of the battlefield, noting enemy positions and returning with careful, measured reports. Small confrontations were conducted with precision. Arrows flew gracefully. Spears landed with calculated intent, and shields met in rhythmic, soft clangs. These actions were not about immediate victory, but about observation, learning, and the refinement of skill. Soldiers practiced patience, foresight, and strategy, understanding that every minor engagement was a lesson in timing, awareness, and the subtleties of human decision-making. The slow rhythm of preparation became as essential as courage itself, building a foundation that would sustain both Greek and Trojan warriors through the decisive moments yet to come. Evenings brought a deep, immersive tranquility. The sun sank slowly behind distant hills, casting the sky in delicate hues of rose, lavender, and gold. Fires flickered gently in the Greek camp, their flames throwing long, dancing shadows across the sand and tents. Soldiers rested, whispered softly in conversation, or allowed their thoughts to drift to home, family, and memories of the past. In Troy, homes glowed warmly with the light of hearth fires. Families shared quiet meals, and the gentle laughter of children mingled with the soft songs of evening. The natural rhythms of night, the lapping of waves, the rustling of leaves, and the distant calls of nocturnal birds, created a lullaby that wrapped both camps in calm reflection, patience, and immersive serenity. The gods continued their presence in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. Athena offered quiet insights to Greek commanders, Apollo and other deities guided Trojan leaders, and divine influence flowed like a soft undercurrent beneath the calm surface of mortal activity. Mortals rarely notice these interventions directly, yet they shape decisions, action, and reflection, reinforcing patience, foresight, and endurance. The gods' subtle guidance reminded all participants that heroism was intertwined with wisdom, observation, and the careful use of strength. Relationships deepened and matured during these immersive years. Achilles and Patroclus' bond became a steady, stabilizing presence, offering comfort, guidance, and unwavering support. Hector's calm leadership instilled courage, loyalty, and resilience in soldiers and citizens alike, ensuring that discipline and focus remained intact even during prolonged tension. Small gestures, a kind word, a shared meal, a reflective moment, were profound in their impact, strengthening bonds of trust, empathy, and moral integrity. These relationships became the unseen scaffolding that would support the heroes and citizens of both sides through trials, sacrifices, and acts of bravery that lay ahead. Through these long, immersive stretches of time, the rhythm of daily life itself became a teacher. Every step along the shoreline, every moment of observation, every conversation, every exercise, and every act of quiet reflection contributed to a deeper understanding of patience, endurance, and subtle awareness. The years of the Trojan War had stretched onward, long and slow, each day unfolding with a quiet deliberateness that seemed to soften the sharp edges of conflict. Time, it seemed, had taken on a gentler quality, as though it slowed to accommodate the endurance and reflection demanded of both Greeks and Trojans. In the Greek camp, life had settled into a rhythm, a gentle cadence that wove together preparation, reflection, and quiet observation. Tents swayed softly in the breeze, their fabric moving with a soft whisper that harmonized with the distant crash of waves upon the shore. Fires glowed with steady, warm light, their smoke curling lazily into the sky, carried with it the sense of cooking, herbs, and salt from the sea. Soldiers moved deliberately, with measured steps and attentive eyes, sharpening weapons, polishing armor, and practicing with shields and spears in precise, rhythmic motions. Each movement was purposeful, yet unhurried, a meditation of skill and endurance that shaped both mind and body while teaching patience in the quietest of ways. Achilles walked along the sandy shore with Patroclus by his side. Each footfall pressed gently into the warm sand, leaving temporary impressions that the slow, gentle tide would soon erase. Their conversations, when they spoke, were soft, reflective, and thoughtful, touching on themes of loyalty, courage, and the intricate nature of heroism. Yet often, silence prevailed, allowing the gentle rhythm of the waves, the call of distant seabirds, and the whisper of wind across the sand to guide their reflections. In this silence, they found lessons that no battle could impart. The importance of patience, the subtle understanding of human nature, and the deep awareness that every action carried consequences that rippled far beyond the present moment. The world itself became a teacher, offering instruction in observation, mindfulness, and endurance, even in moments where no one seemed to notice. Training had become a meditative practice. Arrows traced long, graceful arcs through the sky before sinking softly into sand or a designated target. Spears rotated in the hands of soldiers, their steps measured and deliberate, their motions harmonized with the rhythm of controlled breathing. Shields clashed with soft clangs, creating a subdued, rhythmic percussion that filled the camp without harshness or urgency. Even during rest periods, Achilles and Patroclus observed the environment, noting how sunlight glimmered across the calm waves, how shadows stretched and shifted with the moving sun, and how subtle patterns in nature could provide lessons in timing, patience, and foresight. These quiet observations nurtured understanding and awareness, teaching that true heroism was a blend of skill, reflection, and the measured application of strength. Across the walls of Troy, Hector maintained a steady presence that bolstered the city's morale. Walking among soldiers and citizens alike, he observed exercises with careful attention, offering soft words of encouragement and guidance that reinforced discipline, focus, and courage. Citizens carried on with daily routines, tending gardens, maintaining homes, instructing children, and engaging in the small act of life that preserved continuity even under siege. The women of Troy, led by Hecuba, moved through household with quiet grace, offering counsel, reassurance, and care that strengthened the city's spirit. Each subtle gesture, each whispered word, each deliberate action became part of an invisible fabric that held Troy together, a silent web of resilience that underpinned the walls themselves. Even in moments of apparent calm, the city was alive with quiet strength, preparing its inhabitants for whatever fate the siege might bring. Minor skirmishes and reconnaissance missions were executed with quiet precision and careful deliberation. Scouts moved softly along the periphery of the battlefield, observing enemy positions, noting troop movements, and returning with thoughtful, measured reports. When clashes occurred, they unfolded with exacting control. Arrows traced graceful arcs, spears landed with calculated intent, and shields met with rhythmic clangs that resonated softly in the still air. These engagements were not about immediate victory, but about refining skill, teaching patience, and honing strategic awareness. Soldiers learned to anticipate movements, measure their own reactions, and adapt subtly to the shifting dynamics of the battlefield, all while maintaining the calm rhythm that had become the foundation of their daily lives. Evenings brought a sense of quiet, immersive serenity. The sun descended behind distant hills, painting the horizon with soft hues of rose, lavender, and gold. Fires in the Greek camp flickered gently, casting long, slow-moving shadows across sand, tents, and anchored ships. Soldiers rested in quiet contemplation, whispered hushed conversations, or allowed their minds to wander toward home, family, and honor. In Troy, homes glowed with the soft light of hearth fires. Families shared gentle meals and quiet laughter, and children's songs drifted softly through the streets. The natural rhythms of night, the steady lap of waves, the rustling of leaves in the evening breeze, and the distant calls of night birds created a soothing lullaby, enveloping both camps in a sense of calm, continuity, and reflection. These evening hours allowed for recuperation, reflection, and subtle observation, providing lessons in patience, awareness, and emotional resilience that would prove invaluable in moments of trial. The gods' influence continued quietly, shaping events with subtle, almost imperceptible guidance. Athena offered strategic insights to Greek commanders, while Apollo and other deities provided gentle nudges to Trojan decisions. Their presence was never overt or forceful, yet flowed through the world like a soft current beneath a calm sea, guiding choices, reinforcing patience, and enhancing awareness. Mortals rarely perceived these divine interventions directly, yet their presence was consistently felt, shaping actions, thoughts, and reflections in ways that ensured a prolonged rhythm of preparation, reflection, and endurance continued uninterrupted. Relationships deepened and matured during these long, immersive years. Achilles and Patroclus' companionship evolved into a stable, quiet source of support, understanding, and guidance. Hector's calm leadership instilled confidence, courage, and loyalty in soldiers and citizens alike. Even the smallest gestures, a reassuring word, a shared meal, a quiet touch, or a moment of reflective conversation, carry profound significance, reinforcing trust, human connection, and moral fortitude. These connections, strengthened by patience and quiet reflection, created an emotional scaffolding that would sustain both Greeks and Trojans in the forthcoming trials, heroism, and losses that would define the epic story of Troy. Through the long stretches of calm, the rhythm of daily life became a teacher in its own right. Each step along the shoreline, each movement in practice, each whispered conversation, each moment of silence contributed to the tapestry of awareness, patience, and reflection. Thor entered a vast, gentle meadow, where soft grasses swayed in a slow, harmonious rhythm under the warm light of the sun. The air was fragrant with wildflowers, and the quiet rustle of leaves and insects created a soothing symphony. Here, the giants were subtle and ethereal, blending into the landscape. Some moved like ripples across the grass, while others shimmered faintly in the sunlight, their presence almost imperceptible. Thor realized that strength alone would not suffice. He needed patience, careful observation, and harmony with his surroundings. Loki accompanied him, pointing out small, telling movements. The bending of a stalk, the faint vibration of the ground, the glimmer of dew. Each subtle cue guided Thor's steps and taught him to slow his pace, attune to patterns, and respond thoughtfully. The meadow became a living classroom, reinforcing lessons of reflection, perception, and alignment he had learned in rivers, forests, and highlands. Thor paused often, breathing deeply, feeling the connection between himself, the land, and the quiet giants guiding him. Even the smallest details, the flutter of a butterfly or a slight shift in a flower, became meaningful. The lesson was clear. Mastery comes not from force, but from careful observation, patience, and deliberate, mindful action. By the time he left the meadow, Thor carried a sense of calm confidence, knowing the giant's guidance had strengthened his awareness, refined his perception, and harmonized his movements with the subtle rhythms of the 9 realms. Soldiers rested quietly, spoke in hushed tones, or let their thoughts drift toward family, home, and honor. In Troy, candlelight and hearth fires glowed warmly. Soft conversations filled the streets, and children's laughter mixed with the distant sounds of daily activity. The natural rhythm of the night, waves lapping softly, wind rustling leaves, and distant calls of nocturnal birds, created a gentle lullaby, enveloping both camps in a sense of calm, continuity, and reflection. This tranquil cadence offered both rest and meditation, reinforcing patience, endurance, and awareness of the challenges that lay ahead. The gods continued their subtle guidance during these years. Athena whispered insights to Greek commanders, offering strategic suggestions that could tip the balance at critical moments. Apollo and other divine presences nudged Trojans toward decisions that would strengthen defenses or enhance morale. These divine influences were never overt or forceful. They were like gentle currents beneath the surface of life, shaping choices, guiding awareness, and subtly reinforcing the rhythm of patience and preparation. Mortals rarely noticed these interventions directly, yet they were profoundly affected by them, their reflections, decisions, and actions quietly influenced by the unseen hand of fate. Relationships deepened further during this prolonged calm. Achilles and Patroclus' companionship strengthened into an unspoken foundation of mutual support and understanding. Hector's leadership fostered courage, loyalty, and resilience, instilling confidence among soldiers and citizens alike. Even the smallest gestures, a reassuring touch, a shared meal, a moment of quiet reflection, became significant, quietly reinforcing bonds of trust, loyalty, and human connection. These connections, built over years of patient observation and reflection, were as crucial to the story as any act of heroism on the battlefield, creating a moral and emotional scaffolding that would support both Greeks and Trojans in moments of trial, heroism, and sorrow. Through the long, immersive days of the siege, both sides learned the value of endurance, patience, and subtle awareness. Every small, deliberate action, training, conversation, observation, or rest, contributed to the larger tapestry of experience. Time itself seemed to stretch, allowing these lessons to sink deeply into the minds and hearts of all who lived through this prolonged conflict. The soft rhythms of life, sunlight, waves, wind, and human motion, became teachers of resilience, patience, and reflection, ensuring that both heroes and citizens were prepared for the dramatic, transformative events that would soon unfold. The natural world itself participated in this slow, immersive education. The waves lapped at the shore with steady, predictable motion, the wind whispered through the leaves, and birds moved with quiet grace across the sky. Every detail became an opportunity for reflection, observation, and subtle learning. Soldiers and citizens alike absorbed these lessons, growing awareness, patience, and emotional fortitude, their lives shaped not only by human action, but by the persistent, gentle guidance of the world around them. Even in moments of seeming inactivity, the passage of time, the rhythm of nature, and the quiet flow of human life create profound lessons in endurance, observation, and reflection. And so, Section 18 comes to rest in a state of deliberate calm. The long years of siege have shaped bodies, minds, and hearts, instilling patience, endurance, and subtle awareness that will carry Greeks and Trojans alike through the monumental trials yet to come. Time, reflection, and the gentle rhythm of daily life, the rise and fall of the sun, the soft pulse of the sea, and the quiet actions of humans have prepared them for the ultimate acts of heroism, loss, and destiny. In this immersive moment, the siege breathes slowly, teaching lessons that will resonate through climactic events to follow, providing a foundation upon which courage, wisdom, and legacy will be built. The siege of Troy had stretched into years, and with each passing day, life within both the Greek camp and the city itself seemed to settle into a slow, deliberate rhythm, almost as if the world itself had chosen to pause and reflect. Time moved gently, unhurriedly, like the soft rise and fall of the waves along the distant shore. On the Greek side, the camp was a tapestry of calm activity. Tents swayed softly in the warm breeze, anchored ships rocked quietly in shallow waters, and small fires glowed with gentle orange hues, their smoke curling lazily toward the heavens. The aroma of bread baking, meat roasting, and the faint scent of salt from the nearby sea mingled together to create an almost hypnotic sense of place. Soldiers moved deliberately through their daily routines, sharpening weapons, polishing armor, adjusting shields, and practicing quietly in measured drills. Every motion had purpose but unfolded slowly, carefully, and with attention to detail. Nothing was rushed. Everything was deliberate, and within this slow cadence lay a rhythm that nurtured endurance, patience, and reflection, shaping the minds and bodies of the warriors for the challenges that lay ahead. Achilles, more mature now, walked frequently along the soft sands of the shoreline, accompanied always by Patroclus. Each step was deliberate, the feet sinking slightly into the warm grains, leaving temporary impressions that the waves would soon erase. They moved in quiet harmony, their thoughts reflecting one another's, their voices soft, almost indistinguishable from the gentle whisper of the waves behind them. Their conversations drifted across a wide spectrum of reflections, from loyalty and courage to human nature and the mysteries of fate. But even in the midst of these discussions, they often paused, letting silence take over. Silence became its own teacher. The soothing lull of waves, the distant cries of seabirds, and the subtle rustle of wind through olive groves near the camp all carried lessons in mindfulness and awareness. Training, too, had taken on a measured, almost meditative rhythm. Arrows were loosed not with haste, but with careful calculation, tracing long, elegant arcs through the sky before embedding themselves softly in target dummies or sandy mounds. Spears were thrown with deliberate intent. Each rotation of the wrist, each step of the foot choreographed with care and awareness. Shields met with gentle clangs, not to startle or intimidate, but to reinforce muscle memory, timing, and defensive skill. Even rest was not wasted. Achilles would often sit alone at the edge of the shore, watching sunlight glitter on the calm waves, feeling the gentle pull of the tide against his feet, and listening to the soft whisper of wind across the sands. In these quiet moments, he internalized lessons of patience, self-awareness, and the understanding that heroism was not only measured in action, but also in reflection and restraint. Patroclus, ever the steady companion, walked beside him in these quiet hours, offering not only conversation but presence. He carried a calming influence, his own reflective nature complementing Achilles' fiery energy. Together, They explored the nuances of thought and emotion, discussing duty and honor, fear and bravery, love and loyalty. They talked of the lives they had left behind, of homes and families, of the fleeting joys and subtle sorrows that had shaped them. Even the smallest details, the way a cloud shifted across the sun or the rhythmic ebb of the tide, became subject of observation, teaching mindfulness in the soft art contemplation, helping the young warriors develop insight alongside skill. Within Troy, Hector's presence remained a stabilizing force. His calm authority permeated the city, infusing every action with measured intent and reassurance. He walked the walls regularly, observing training exercises and speaking softly with soldiers, reinforcing discipline and confidence. The city citizens carried on with their daily routines, tending gardens, maintaining homes, repairing walls, and nurturing children. Every sound, every sight, every movement contributed to a gentle harmony within the city, as if life itself had adapted to the long shadow cast by the Greek camp. Hecuba and other women moved gracefully among households, offering counsel, comfort, and reassurance, strengthening both morale and the sense of continuity within Troy. Their actions, though quiet and understated, were essential. They preserved the rhythm of domestic life, reinforced the moral fabric of the city, and provided the invisible support that allowed the soldiers to train and the citizens to endure. The minor skirmishes and reconnaissance missions that punctuated these years were executed with quiet precision. Scouts moved cautiously along the outskirts of the battlefield, their movements barely audible against the gentle murmur of nature. They returned with thoughtful reports, sharing observations with leaders in soft, measured tones. Small clashes between soldiers were controlled and deliberate. Arrows flew gracefully in long arcs, spears struck with careful calculation, and shields met with rhythmic clangs that echoed softly in the still air. These encounters were not about glory or immediate triumph. They were lessons in observation, endurance, and adaptability. They taught soldiers to remain calm under pressure, to anticipate movements, and to perfect the timing of their actions. Each minor engagement became an opportunity to refine skill, test patience, and strengthen both the mind and body in preparation for larger battles yet to come. Evenings offered particular tranquility, as the sun dipped behind distant hills, painting the sky in delicate hues of rose, lavender, and soft gold. Fires in the Greek camp flickered gently, casting long, undulating shadows across tents and sand. Soldiers rested quietly, spoke in hushed tones, or allowed their minds to drift to family, home, and honor. In Troy, candlelight and hearth fires glowed warmly, and families shared meals in hushed harmony. Soft songs floated through quiet streets, and the gentle laughter of children blended with the distant sounds of evening routines, creating a soothing, continuous hum that carried both Greeks and Trojans into the night. Nature, too, participated in this gentle lullaby. Waves lapped softly against the shore, wind rustled through leaves, and distant night birds called out into the darkness, forming a subtle soundtrack of calm that enveloped the entire region. The gods continued their quiet presence, subtly shaping events and guiding actions in ways barely perceptible to mortals. Athena whispered strategic insights to Greek leaders, while Apollo and other deities nudged Trojan decisions with gentle persistence. Their influence was not forceful. It was like a soft undercurrent beneath the calm surface of life, guiding thoughts, choices, and preparation in a way that reinforced patience, endurance, and subtle wisdom. Mortals rarely recognized these divine interventions, yet they were consistently present, quietly shaping outcomes, fortifying resolve, and ensuring that both heroism and fate unfolded in measured, deliberate harmony. Relationships deepened over these years, strengthened by quiet companionship and shared reflection. Achilles and Patroclus' bond became a profound source of guidance, reassurance, and understanding, a foundation of emotional stability that balanced the intensity of their warrior lives. Hector's calm, patient leadership reinforced courage, loyalty, and resilience among soldiers and citizens, cultivating trust and cohesion. Even the smallest gestures, a reassuring word, a shared meal, or a moment of reflective conversation, carried immense significance, quietly shaping character and fortifying moral strength. These relationships, nurtured over long periods of calm reflection and measured action, would prove essential in decisive moments of heroism, sacrifice, and loss that were soon to define the legendary saga of Troy. Throughout these years, both Greeks and Trojans learned profound value of patience, endurance, and observation. Life had become a subtle, immersive rhythm of preparation, reflection, and quiet human connection. Each day's small, deliberate actions, walking, training, observing, conversing, or resting, contributed to the rich tapestry experience, deepening understanding, reinforcing resilience, and shaping the moral and emotional foundation of heroes. Time itself seemed to stretch, slowing just enough to allow each lesson, each reflection, and each subtle gesture to imprint upon those who would carry the story forward. In the quiet stretches of this prolonged siege, the world itself seemed to conspire toward reflection and introspection. Sunlight glinted softly off armor and shields, waves lapped with a rhythmic persistence, leaves rustled in the gentle breeze, and distant birds called softly to one another. Each of these simple elements became part of the immersive experience, grounding both soldiers and citizens in a world that, despite war, offered moments of stillness, beauty, and quiet contemplation. Through this, the long passage of time became a teacher, instilling patience, wisdom, and subtle awareness, preparing everyone, Greek, Trojan, warrior, and citizen alike, for the momentous events that were quietly approaching on the horizon of fate. And so, Section 19 closes with the siege suspended in a state of patient calm. The long years have shaped bodies, minds, and hearts, instilling endurance, loyalty, and reflection that will carry both Greeks and Trojans to the ultimate trials of heroism, loss, and destiny. Time, patience, and the gentle rhythm of life, sun, sea, wind, and human activity, have created a foundation for climactic events that await. The quiet, immersive cadence of the world ensures that when the story reaches its turning point, every action will resonate with the weight of preparation, observation, and the slow, deliberate unfolding of fate. As the long and measured years of the Trojan War drew forward, a sense of reflection settled over both the Greek camp and the city of Troy. The siege, which had begun with the fiery stirrings of ambition, desire, and conflict, had matured into a rhythm of endurance, preparation, and quiet observation. Life had become a gentle tapestry of daily routines, of small gestures, and of silent moments that carried the weight of destiny. The sun rose slowly each morning, spilling its warm light across the sand, tents, and anchored ships of the Greeks, while casting the walls of Troy in soft, golden hues. Soldiers moved through their routines with deliberate care, sharpening weapons, polishing armor, raising and lowering shields, and practicing quietly with measured precision. Each action, though small and calm, contributed to the long, immersive story of patience, skill, and the slow shaping of character. Achilles continued to walk along the shore, accompanied by Patroclus, their steps in quiet harmony with the rhythm of the waves. Conversations between the two were gentle, reflective, and thoughtful, exploring loyalty, courage, and the nature of heroism, but also touching on the quiet moments of life, friendship, home, and the subtle beauty of the world around them. Training became a meditation, a deliberate practice of skill and patience. Arrows flew in smooth, graceful arcs. Spears landed with careful intent, and shields moved in rhythmic, controlled patterns. Even as they rested, observing the sunlight dancing across the water or listening to the distant cries of seabirds, both warriors absorbed the lessons of endurance, self-awareness, and quiet observation. The soft, persistent rhythm of preparation was as essential to their future heroism as courage or strength. Within Troy, Hector remained a calm and steady presence, walking among soldiers and citizens alike, offering soft guidance and reassurance. Training exercises continued with gentle precision, while the city citizens carried on with gardens, workshops, and household routines, maintaining a quiet resilience that became the invisible backbone of the city. Hecuba and the women of Troy moved among the households with care and subtle grace, offering counsel, comfort, and encouragement, ensuring that the spirit of Troy remained intact despite the ever-present shadow of conflict. Each gesture, each word, each quiet act of attentiveness strengthened the city, nurturing resilience that was as vital as the stones of its walls. Skirmishes and reconnaissance missions continued with careful deliberation. Scouts observed the enemy quietly, reporting their findings with measured accuracy, while minor engagements were executed with soft precision. Arrows arced gracefully, spears landed with controlled intent, and shields met in rhythmic clangs. These small, deliberate encounters emphasized observation, timing, and patience over immediate glory, teaching soldiers to endure, adapt, and refine their skills while maintaining the calm, immersive rhythm that had become the foundation of the siege. Evenings brought a deep, soothing tranquility. The sun sank behind distant hills, painting the sky in muted shades of rose, lavender, and soft gold. Fires flickered gently in Greek encampments, casting long, moving shadows across tents and sand, while soldiers rested in quiet reflection, soft conversation, or meditative thought. In Troy, homes glowed with the warm light of hearth fires. Families shared gentle meals, and soft songs drifted through the streets, carrying reassurance and continuity. The natural rhythm of the night, waves lapping softly at the shore, the rustle of leaves in the evening breeze, and the distant calls of night birds, created a subtle, soothing lullaby that wrapped the people of both camps in calm serenity. The gods continued their quiet presence, subtly guiding events without ever disturbing the gentle flow of life. Athena whispered strategies to Greek leaders, while Apollo and other deities offered soft counsel to the Trojans. Their influence was invisible yet persistent, like an undercurrent beneath the slow, steady tide of human action. Mortals rarely perceived their touch directly, but it shaped the rhythm of thought, reflection, and preparation, reinforcing patience, endurance, and insight that would carry them to the climactic moments ahead. In these years, relationships deepened into enduring sources of strength. Achilles and Patroclus' bond became a quiet pillar of guidance and reassurance. Hector's calm leadership instilled courage, loyalty, and resilience in soldiers and citizens alike. Small gestures, a kind word, a shared meal, a moment of reflection, wove a tapestry of trust, human connection, and moral strength. These bonds would prove essential in the days of heroism, loss, and profound transformation that were soon to come, echoing in memory and legend long after the walls of Troy had fallen. And now, as the story draws to a gentle close, the siege of Troy rests in a moment of calm reflection. The world is soft, immersive, and slow, carrying the weight of human courage, wisdom, and endurance. Every quiet act, every measured step, every reflective pause has shaped the heroes and the citizens, preparing them for their roles in a saga that blends triumph, tragedy, and timeless human experience. Time, patience, and reflection have become as essential as bravery and strength, and the gentle rhythm of sun, sea, wind, and human activity has guided the narrative toward a peaceful, contemplative resolution. The story of Troy and its heroes lingers like the soft echo of waves on a quiet shore. Though battles and challenges have tested courage and will, the enduring lessons remain. The importance of patience, the depth of loyalty, and the quiet strength found in reflection and connection. As night falls, the sun dips below the horizon, and the soft whisper of wind and waves carries a gentle lullaby across the city, the Greek camp, and the hearts of all who walk this path of legend. In this calm, immersive twilight, the story rests, a timeless tale of heroism, human connection, and the enduring rhythm of life that continues beyond the walls, beyond the pages of history, and into quiet moment of imagination and sleep. And here, our tale comes to a close, leaving behind a gentle, enduring echo of Troy and its heroes, a soft, reflective journey through time, courage, and the delicate beauty of human endurance.